Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Alliance's webinar, Let's Learn About COVID-19 Resources for People with Disabilities. Today's webinar is presented by Timotheus Gordon. Today is Tuesday, May 26th. And the Alliance is excited that this webinar was developed under an investment from the Illinois Council on Developmental Disabilities, also known as ICDD, and it is co-sponsored by the University of Illinois at Chicago's Institute on Disability and Human Development. As a reminder, this webinar is being recorded, and a copy of the recording will be placed on the Alliance's website, as well as sent out to all attendees and on the Alliance's Facebook page. All attendees are in listen-only mode. If you wish to communicate with the presenter, please type in your question, comment, or contribution using your control panel and send it to me, Christine Beck. I will be your facilitator today, and I am the organizational director for the Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance. Who we are. The Alliance is what we call ourselves. That's short for the Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance. We are a network of advocates and self-advocacy groups around Illinois. And the image on the screen is a picture that includes 15 people, some standing and some sitting, and all are holding white pieces of paper. And those white pieces of paper are the certificates that they receive for completing the Alliance's Ambassador Leadership Training Program in October of 2019. Our vision is for self-advocates to work together to get the support we need and to live the life we want in the community. And our mission is to speak up for ourselves and each other while working together to make changes in our communities and in Illinois. Our focus is on empowering people to speak up and speak out about what they want and need, about what they don't want and don't need, to action plan their goals, and to participate in advocacy at the personal, agency, community, and statewide levels. And so what do we do? The Alliance does a lot of things. We support local groups. We have several member groups, and I'll share those with you on the next slide. We work together on important issues, and we offer networking, advocacy, and learning opportunities through monthly newsletters, our webinars, the Alliance Ambassador Leadership Program, and the Training Institute. And the image on the screen in the upper right-hand corner is a picture of a person with pink skin, short brown hair, wearing glasses and holding papers. And I mentioned member groups as one of the things that the Alliance does. And currently, the Alliance has 37 member groups spread out all over Illinois. And in the northern part of the state, we have member groups in McHenry and Zion and Dixon. Chicago and the surrounding areas are well represented with member groups in Alsip, Aurora, Brookfield, the city of Chicago, Chicago Heights, Elgin, Evanston, Evergreen Park, Hanover Park, Homewood, Mount Prospect, Rolling Meadows, and Westmont. In the central part of the state, we're proud to have member groups in Rock Island, Galesburg, Pontiac, Tremont, Bloomington, Beardstown, Jacksonville, Decatur, and Monticello. And in the southern part of the state, we have member groups in Alton, Edwardsville, Mattoon, Charleston, and Paris. As I am fond of saying, no matter where you live, no matter where you work, no matter where you play, chances are there's a self-advocacy group or a self-advocate near you speaking up and speaking out about the things that are important to them. And so now I'd like you to meet the presenter, Timotheus T.J. Gordon Jr. So TJ, take it away.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I am Timotheus Gordon Jr., also known as TJ. And if you see the picture on your right-hand side, you will see a smiling man with brown skin and a mustache. And this person is also wearing glasses and a knit cap, even though right now I am not wearing a knit cap because it is hot outside. But before I go on, I would like to talk about a few things about myself. My pronouns are he, his, and him, by the way. I am a autistic self-advocate in Chicago, Illinois. I am also a co-chair of one of the alliance groups called Chicagoland Disabled People of Color Coalition, also known as Chicagoland DPOC. Chicagoland DPOC is a organization that promotes disability awareness and acceptance in communities of color in the Chicagoland area. And we also promote self-advocacy in those areas as well. I am a researcher at the Institute on Disability and Human Development, which is at University of Illinois at Chicago, or UIC. And I have a Master of Science in Disability and Human Development. That's all I have about me. So next slide, please. So let's speak up and speak out for a little bit. So have any of you all seen the COVID-19 resources for people with disabilities in marginalized communities? And we have a quick poll, so you can select from yes or no if you've seen it already.
All right. So this is Christine, and thank you for introducing that poll, TJ. So again, have you seen the COVID-19 resources for people with disabilities in marginalized communities? And it came out almost a month ago. And so we're getting the poll done. I'll go ahead and close it and share. And it looks like you are on the right webinar today because you haven't seen it. And so a couple of things. The first is the resource in both English and Spanish is attached to this webinar. And so you just check out the handouts and you can download it from there along with a copy of the PowerPoint that TJ is using today. In addition, I will be sending out copies of the PowerPoint presentation and both the English and the Spanish resource. So if you are unable to download it from your handouts, that's okay. We'll send it to you. So TJ, looks like nobody's seen it yet.
All right, and that's a great segue to the next slide, which we will talk about the resource guide more. So the resource list was created by Chicagoland DPOC and also the Alliance. It was pretty much a collaboration that was also funded by ICDD, or the Illinois Council on Developmental Disabilities, through ARCA, Illinois. And the reason that we decided to create this list, because we wanted to feel a need for a centralized or a big list where people could go to for not only COVID-19, but also any resources in general, whether it's for food, finding legislators, and much more. Now, keep in mind, even though the list is mainly created for people with disabilities who are also people of color, who are immigrants, or those in what we call the LGBTQIA community, or those who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, etc. However, anyone can use the list, and you can share the list with anyone who you think will be who will benefit from the list. The list includes not only statewide resources, but also national resources, and you may see some local resources too. Some in Chicago, but we also encourage you to look for social resources in your area as well, which we will discuss later on. And as Christine mentioned, we have the list available in two languages. You could either get the English version of the list or the Spanish version. And I would like to give a thank you to a Chicago self-advocate and activist who helped us translate it into Spanish, Jaime Cornejo. I like to we would like to thank him for translating the list into Spanish. And also, I understand for some people that may have a hard time reading small font, so we decided to make both versions have large font, so you could have better access to the list, and also you can see the words better as well. And on to for the next slide. So it's basically we're about to summarize what's in the list. We have information on what is COVID-19 because a lot of people will ask us, what is COVID-19 and how can I make sure that I'm safe for COVID-19, or how can I tell if I had COVID-19 and when can I go to the doctor? Also, we have information on what is a shelter in place order, what is social distancing, where to find face masks, and fun things to do while practicing social distancing. And we'll also get into more detail about mutual aid. In addition to those things, excuse me, we also have a list of resources that you could check out as well, whether it's legal aid, housing, anything with health, including your mental health. There's examples of food resources. There's resources where you could look up your state legislators and your local legislators as well. There's also information on mayoral offices that may have resources. There's disability resources, and also examples of self-advocacy groups if you want to join one and become a self-advocate. On the next slide. So we have the big question that a lot of people ask all the time. What in the world is COVID-19? COVID-19, to me, is like having the flu, which I had the flu, by the way, in February, but it's much worse than the flu, much worse. It can be passed around from person to person by coughing and sneezing or touching things that are covered with the virus and other germs. And if you have a fever, a cough, having a hard time breathing, if you feel tired or if your body aching all over, if you have a runny nose or a sore throat, please call your doctor or go to your closest clinic or hospital immediately. The doctor can test you to see if you have a cold, if you have the flu, or if you have COVID-19. But no worries, there's a way for us to be safe from COVID-19 as much as possible. Now, if you are feeling sick, please, please stay at home if you feel sick. It will not only keep you safe, but it'll also keep others around you safe as well. And if, for instance, if you give the virus to somebody else around you, some people may have a harder time fighting the virus off. So you don't want to pass the virus around if you're sick. That's why people will say it's best to stay home until you're 100% better. Also, wash your hands with soap and warm water often whenever you done using the restroom or when you're out in public, etc. When you step outside the house, make sure to wear a face mask or something that covers your face and nose when you go out. It could be something like a bandana, or I've seen people use paper towels. I've seen people use a t-shirt, socks, many things to cover your face and nose, as long as you use something to cover your face and nose. So that way you could not only protect yourself from getting sick, but also protect others as well. Practice social distancing when you go outside of your home. We will talk about social distancing very soon in more detail. When you cough or sneeze, make sure you cough into your elbow, or if you have a tissue, cough into your tissue and throw the tissue away immediately. Let's say if you've been sneezing and coughing a lot in your house, make sure that you wipe things that you touch with disinfectant wipes. Again, just like with staying at home, wiping things that you touch with disinfectant wipes could keep you safe and can keep others safe too. On to the next slide, please. So another common question that we received and we addressed in the resource list is, what is a shelter in place? Some people call it a stay at home order, but it is not a lockdown. It is not a lockdown. I understand that some people call it a lockdown because you can't go outside as much, but you still can. We'll get to it in a second. So in the shelter in place order, it's a order by the governor that tells that tells people to stay inside as much as you can to avoid catching the virus. And it covers all cities and towns in Illinois. So your mayor may be encouraging people in their town and cities to follow the same order, even though there's in some places, a mayor or whatnot may have slightly different rules, but even so, they will still follow the state order as much as possible. As of right now, the shelter-in-place order is in effect until May the 30th. So I believe it is in effect until this Saturday. However, the shelter-in-place can end next month. The shelter-in-place can also extend another month, depending on how things go, or what the governor's doing right now is adding more things where the shelter in place will be not as intense as the one before. So, for instance, in some places you could go out and eat at a restaurant again outside, or you're able to go to the gym again, or you could go to any store that you want again in that order. So here are some things you could do in the shelter in place order. You could go to work if you want to, if your workplace is still open. Or if you work from home, you could do so too. You could go for a walk in your neighborhood. You could go to the store for food and medicine. Or in about a week, you could also go to the store for anything. You could wash your clothes at a laundromat or pick up dry cleaning. You could pick up food from a restaurant, or next week, you can actually go out and eat at a restaurant again with caution, with caution, as long as you're wearing a mask. But that's my suggestion. You could still go to the doctor. You could take your pet to the vet. And I've seen people where they still visit family and close friends as long as they wear a mask and as long as it's not too many people. As we mentioned before, the shelter in place is not the same in all cities in town in Illinois. A mayor or a village president or whoever runs your town and city could have a version of the shelter in place that's specific to your area. For instance, in Chicago, even though restaurants and bars could open up again statewide next week, Mayor Lightfoot decided that restaurants were not open fully right away. We might open up restaurants in Chicago sometime in the summer. We're trying to figure out some things to see how the reopenings will go as far as restaurants. But in other places, the restaurants could open right away. Or there, in some places, the whole county or the whole town is already fully reopened. So it's best to pay attention to what the mayor says along with Governor Pritzker. And most importantly, it could change at any time, depending on how well things go or if we see another spike in COVID-19 cases. If you'd like to know more about the plans to reopen Illinois or what the shelter in place look like statewide, you can go to the website that is on the bottom of the shelter in place 2 slide. And yes, excuse me, running out of breath a little bit. There we go. Sorry about that. So the next thing we'll talk about is social distancing. In addition to staying at home, being sick, or try to stay at home as much as possible to lower your chances of getting the virus, you should also practice social distancing. In social distancing, try to stay at least 6 feet or 6 meters away from other people when walking outside your house. And in fact, there are stores that require that you stay at least 6 feet away from other people when you're in line. When you riding on a train or the bus, try to sit a few seats away from others. That can also help lower the chance of catching the virus. And no matter what, when you ride a train or a bus, or if you go in public, make sure you wear something to cover your face and nose. Also, do not gather in groups when you're outside at home. And try to have parties, gatherings, and events online if there's more than 10 people. Otherwise, if you have a gathering or event that is more than 10 people, then the police may come to your door and give you a ticket. So to avoid the police, it is best to keep the gatherings down under 10 people if you can, or have it online if you can. And this is a picture of what social distancing looks like. And it's a picture of 2 stick figures. And in between the 2 stick figures is the word 6 feet, reminding you how many feet you should be away from the other person. Or if you want to go more than 6 feet, go right ahead. The more, the better. All right, next slide. So let's speak up and speak out, shall we? Are you practicing social distancing? And right now we have a quick poll that is posted. You can select yes or no, and as soon as you click one of the choices, we will tell you the result.
All right. Thanks, TJ. This is Christine. Everybody out there, this is your opportunity to speak up and speak out. Use your control panel and select, are you practicing social distancing? You'll either click yes or no. So go ahead and let us know. Are you practicing social distancing? And you should be seeing the poll on your screen, and we need you to let us know. Are you practicing social distancing?
I know I am.
I am too. I am too. And let's see, nobody's voting. I hope everybody's awake out there. Yeah. Maybe this means that everybody is social distancing. Oh, there we go. We're getting responses. We're going to go ahead and close the poll. and share the results. And it looks like 100% of you who responded are doing the right thing and you are practicing social distancing. So,
Yay!
well done.
And if you didn't practice social distancing, no worries. We will not report you or anything, but we will remind you to practice social distancing, just in case. So the next part of the resource list that we'll talk about is face masks. So beginning on April 23rd, and it is official as of May the 1st, our governor requires everyone to wear a cloth mask or something to cover your mouth and nose in public, especially if you go into places where it's harder to practice social distancing or keeping distance from other people. Like when you go to the grocery store, when you go to the laundromat, or the post office, or even when you're riding a train or a bus, it is hard to stay 6 feet away from people sometimes. So it is a good idea to wear a mask or something to cover your face for extra protection. And there are some places that require you to wear something on your face, otherwise they will not let you in. And it's not just the idea of go to Pritzker. The federal agency for disease control, called the Center for Disease Control, or CDC, also recommends that people cover their faces when going out in public. You can use a surgical mask if you still have some. You can use a cloth mask. You can use a scarf, a handkerchief, or a bandana to cover your mouth and nose. Speaking of masks, let's speak out about wearing masks. When you go out, are you wearing a mask? And if so, you can tell us yes or no in our quick poll.
All right, speak up and speak out. So we heard that all of you are social distancing, and that's great, but sometimes you're going to be in a place where you can't be at least 6 feet away. So in those cases, are you wearing a mask? And we are collecting the responses, and this is fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and close because 100% of you said, yes, I am wearing a mask when I go out. Awesome. Way to stay safe for yourselves and for other people.
Oh yes, and speaking about masks, quick thing about masks also. If you can't find any in, let's say, a Walmart or a Target or your local store, it's okay because you can also go online to Amazon or Etsy to find face coverings. You can ask family members or friends that sell, donate, or make masks too. Or you can also make your own mask as well, which we will not talk about today, but next week I will we'll talk about mask making and examples of mask resources for face masks next week. So the next resource we'll talk about is mutual aid, and it is a thing that's happening everywhere, especially in Illinois. And mutual aid is something that's not new. We have been practicing mutual aid for a very, very long time. But excuse me. So, in short, mutual aid is a local neighborhood coming together to share resources and talent to help each other out. So, for instance, let's say if you clean houses and you can help people clean houses and desanitize houses during the pandemic, or let's say if you need somebody to get groceries for you, you can reach out to your neighbors to go shopping for you and to pick up groceries for you also. Another example of mutual aid is picking up restaurant food for others, sharing food, toilet paper, and other needed items with neighbors. You can use mutual aid to drive people to medical appointments, or you could also use mutual aid to share entertainment items like games, books, puzzles, DVDs, and that's pretty much it for mutual aid. And now for the fun part, we're bored in the house. I know, and even for some some of us, even if we're able to go outside, we want to do more fun things, but we can't do any fun things because some of the fun things are closed, or we can't get to them because of COVID-19. But there's still ways to have fun while you practice social distancing. So one fun example is going outside to get some fresh air, to ride a bike, or to take a walk around the neighborhood. You can do that. It's okay to do that. You will not get in trouble for going outside to catch fresh air. You could play games by yourself or with a few people, either indoors or outdoors. In fact, we've done a webinar last month about ideas of games you could play by yourself or with a few people. And we would encourage you to follow the link to that webinar. I believe we did post it in the slide, correct?
That is correct, and it'll be coming right up.
Yay! So you'll definitely have some ideas of games you could play to keep busy or to have fun. You can also catch up on movies or TV shows that you really wanted to see. Right now, I am catching up to cartoons that I haven't seen yet, and I also watch a documentary on the Chicago Bulls. So that's one way I've been doing some fun things while practice my social distancing. You can learn new hobbies or pick up old ones. So some people could learn how to speak another language or make clothes or make masks. Plenty of hobbies you could do, or if you have something that you like to do already, you could do that hobby more often. If you miss your family and loved ones, which some of us do, I will assume we miss somebody to talk to in person. That's okay. You can connect with family and loved ones over the phone. Or if you have a Facebook, TikTok, which is my personal favorite, or Instagram, you can connect with your loved ones on social media, or you could also use video calling apps where you can see people and talk to people live, like Facebook Messenger, Google Duo, or FaceTime if you have an Apple phone, or House Party. There's plenty of things you can do while practicing social distancing. So you will not be bored. So let's speak up and speak out. And we will ask a couple of questions. Number one, if you go to the quick poll, we want to know, are you doing fun things while social distancing? You can select from yes and no, and we will talk about the results soon. You can also tell us what fun things you are doing while practicing social distancing in the chat as well. So if you want to share anything, any fun things that you're doing, you may do so in the chat box.
All right. Thank you, TJ. This is Christine again. And we're wanting you to speak up and speak out. Just answer the quick poll. Are you doing fun things while social distancing? And we'll go ahead and close that poll and share the responses. So looks like everybody who responded is doing something fun while social distancing. So that is wonderful. And then the second part of that is, all right, so what fun things are you doing? So if you'd like to share, go ahead and type that in using your control panel and we will read it out loud. And from Richard in Decatur, Illinois, he is playing on his PlayStation, so he's got a gaming device. And Richard has also been co-presenting a lot of weekly WOW meetings on Zoom for self-advocates, not only in Illinois, but all around the nation. So Richard, thank you. Glad that you are having fun, doing some fun things. Anybody else before we move on? Anybody else doing anything fun? All right. Okay. Angelia says she's going on walks. So wonderful. Getting outside and getting some fresh air. And Missy and Sam, they're doing sticker pictures. Well, that sounds exciting. Sticker pictures. And Richard reminded me that there are no WOW meetings this week. So thank you, Richard, for that. Here's another one. So TJ said he's having fun by playing video games from the Sega Genesis. So TJ's going old school. He's also making masks, watching classic sports games, and having fun on video apps. So, oh, and Allison is doing jigsaw puzzles. Thank you, Allison. I know a lot of people in our neighborhood are doing jigsaw puzzles, and they are sharing those jigsaw puzzles with each other. So when you're done with one, you can share it with somebody else, and you could get a new one. And I'll just say this. On the screen is information about the webinar that TJ did last month on April 10th. It was called Friday Fun Day, Stay and Play, all about games. And the description of the webinar is video games and card games and board games. Oh my. So join TJ as he talks all things game during this time of stay and play. And he came up with that phrase himself. So discover new games and share the games that you enjoy. And the link to the recording is listed below. As a reminder, you can download from your control panel the PowerPoint that we are using for today. I will also be sending out the PowerPoint to all attendees after the webinar. And you can find the webinar recording on the Alliance's website. So we'll keep going with our presentation. So TJ, can you quickly go through the examples of all the resources people will find in the resource guide?
Absolutely. And in fact, this is pretty much the last part of the resource packet where we go through examples of resources that you could find from legal, housing. There's all sorts of stuff out there. We could talk about resources for a whole day, but we only have 15 minutes. So we can't talk about resources, a lot of resources, but we will give you some idea of different types of resources that you could look for during the pandemic. If you're looking for anything with legal aid, where do you need legal aid for housing or other things? You could go to places like Equip for Equality in Chicago. There's also Land of Lincoln Legal Aid and Legal Aid Chicago. Excuse me. In some places, you could get a lawyer for free or a low cost, and they can also help you with whatever you need legally. If you're looking for affordable housing, which is very huge in Illinois because a lot of people in the state need somewhere to stay, especially to be safe from the pandemic. You could go to affordable housing online where it's a website that gives a list of available affordable housing in your area and throughout the state of Illinois as well. Or you can also go to Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. It is a federal organization that helps people with housing also. Or you can also go to Illinois Department of Human Services as well for housing assistance. Next slide, please. And then there's also health and medical resources and food resources that you can go to too. In fact, me personally, I see health, medical, food, and mental health all as one large medical resources because we need all those things to survive and to have good health during the outbreak. And you can't have one without the other. So, for instance, you don't have insurance or if you don't have much money, there are free clinics and community health centers you could go to in your area. You can also check out Illinois Department of Public Health if you need information on those clinics or if you need to find a place that tests for COVID-19 if you have it or suspect that you have it. Now, I will get into this next resource because this one is very close to me. In outbreaks like COVID-19, things could be stressful for families. It could be stressful for you for lots of reasons. If you're sick or if you see a lot of people sick or going through all the effects of the outbreak. it can be difficult and you may not have people to talk to. If you are going through any stress, if it gets to the point where you might think about harming yourself, you could go to the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and it is available to everyone in the United States. If you going through any stress that could potentially be harmful, and I apologize if I was going a little dark, but it's a very important resource to mention. There's also food. Who doesn't like food? There's actually resources for pet food called Illinois Pet Food Pantry, where you could get food for your dog, your cat, your fish, whichever pet that you have. You can go to foodpantries.org to find food pantries in your local area. An example of a food pantry is the Greater Chicago Food Depository, where it has resources on where to find food pantries in the Chicagoland area. But you could also find food pantries at foodpantries.org outside of Chicago too. And then let's say if you are fed up with what's going on in your local area and you want to talk to your elected officials about what's going on, or maybe you want to help your neighborhood in some way, you could use the state's website to find your elected officials. What you would do is enter your address and your zip code, and then it will find your state legislators, including your state senators, as well as your state representatives. Now you can also use the federal website to find people in Congress as well in your area. Or if you want to go to your city, town, or village or county website to find your elected officials, you can use those sites to find them. If you live in Chicago, then the mayor's office have a specific office that has resources for people with disabilities called the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities, or MOPD. They have lots of resources for people who are hard of hearing or deaf, people with vision disabilities, a lot of resources for people with disabilities in Chicago. So you can go to their website to find more information. Or if you're not in Chicago, more than likely, your town may have something similar to MOPD. You just have to search it in your area. Next slide, please. And then there's also resources in the disability community that you could go to. Let's say if you want to go to organizations that support the disability community, then you go to places like the ARC Illinois. You could go to any places that support people with mental illness, like the National Alliance on Mental Illness in Illinois, or NAMI Illinois. There's also the Illinois Deaf and Hard of Hearing Commission, or IDHHC. And for people who want to live independent lives, there's places called Centers for Independent Living that can give you the tools on how to live independently, where to find resources that can help you get to that point, and to self-advocate for living independently. They're called Centers for Independent Living. Examples of it is Access Living in Chicago, for instance. Or if you like to speak up and speak out, and you're looking for groups to join, you can join a self-advocacy group in the in your area, and that's where the Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance come in. The alliance have um, like a group of self-advocacy groups all over Illinois. So you'll find a self-advocacy group somewhere in your area. For instance, I would like to mention two of them. The one is Chicagoland Disabled People of Color Coalition, or Chicagoland DPOC. And there's another self-advocacy group in Chicago called the Trailblazers of Chicagoland Autism Connection. And the Trailblazers are a group of autistic self-advocates in the Chicagoland area. But let's say you go through all that you need to find in the list, but you couldn't find anything. You cannot find what you're looking for. It's okay. It is okay, because even though the list may not have everything that you need, there's other ways that you can find what you're looking for. One way to find resources is to ask yourself advocacy group or your agency and organization or your school or your place of worship, whether it's a church, mosque, or a synagogue, whichever place you worship, or if you go to a CIL, or a Center for Independent Living, they will know of some local resources. So you can ask any of those people in those places. You can also ask somebody you know, like your family or friends, or somebody in self-advocacy, in your self-advocacy circle, because they may know some resources, or they may know of other people that knows resources. And another way to find what you're looking for, just Google it. Or what we mean by Google it, type in what you're looking for on the internet, mainly Google, but if you have another search engine, just type in what you're looking for, and more likely it will show up in the search. But there's more. There's other ways to address resources in your area. Let's say if you Googled, if you asked everybody around, but you still can't find it, we can actually show you how to create your own emergency resource guide. And we will have that webinar next week on June the 2nd, which is next Tuesday from 1 to 2 p.m. Same time, same place. And join us as we share how you can create your own resource guide based on your community. Your resource guide could be used during the COVID-19 pandemic, and other emergencies or natural disasters. So you can also use a resource guide if your town or your local area experience a tornado or a flood, or let's say it's something violent and bad happened, like a train crash or a fire or whatnot. You can use the list that you create. And we may talk about more about the math on there too. So stay tuned for next week's webinar to learn more about creating your resource guide. If you have any questions about the resource guide, or if you want to get an early head start on creating your own, or if you just want to chat with me about anything, you could contact me at chicagolanddeepak@gmail.com, or you can also contact me at my work email, which is TG as in goat, OR, D as in David, 07 at UIC.edu. And that is all that I have for the day as far as webinar 1.
So thank you again, TJ, for sharing all about the resources for people with disabilities in marginalized communities. And as a reminder, I did attach, and you should be able to locate and download the resource in English, the resource in Spanish, and the PowerPoint that was used for today's webinar. In addition, I will also be sending those documents out with the link to the webinar recording. As TJ was sharing the different types of resources, whether they were in health and medical or food or legal, in the actual resource manual, there are links that take you directly to whether it is Illinois NAMI or whether it is Equip for Equality or Food Bank Chicago. So the resource does include direct links to get to the various resources. So on behalf of the Alliance, thank you, TJ, for sharing your time, your gifts, and your talents for this resource. And it's coming at a great time, not only for COVID-19, but just as we prepare for life as we move forward. If you wish to connect with the Alliance, our email is info@selfadvocacyalliance.org. Our website can be found at selfadvocacyalliance.org. And if you're on social media, you can find us and like us on Facebook by searching for Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance. And also pinned at the top of the page on the Illinois Self-Advocacy Alliance's Facebook page are both resources, the resource in English and the resource in Spanish. And the image on the top right-hand side of your screen is a person with pink skin, short brown hair, raising right hand in a fist. The person is wearing a purple shirt with the words, "Ask me about the Alliance," written in white. So Allison says, thank you both. And Allison, thank you for joining us today. So again, until we see each other on next week's webinar, keep on speaking up and speaking out.
Speaking out.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.